it's glad to, it reinforces the opinion that you're excited about this race, and it's an interesting race in that we will have a new mayor for the first time in what, 18 years. So we have 3 candidates that I'll introduce in just a few minutes. FCTP, or Faulkner County Tea Party, believes it's incredibly important for people to be informed, because we believe that if you're informed of your candidates, you'll make the right choice as you vote. We're conservative in our group. We love liberty, meaning individual rights, economic freedom, and representative government that listens to the people and is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now, participating in our forum are 3 candidates, and I'm going to bring them up alphabetically. Let's first start with Bart Castleberry, Mark Elsinger, and Scott Grummer. Let's give them a hand. Gentlemen, we're glad you're here with us. Go ahead and feel free to take a seat.
This is for sharing, because sharing is caring.
We have 2 mics that are really good. We have 2 that are really bad. So we thought we'd use the 2 good ones. And they have to share. Is that what Bob said? Sharing is caring. Okay, that's good. Okay, I got to keep getting questions here. I have a few of my own, but let me just sort of give us the lay of the land as to how we're going to handle this. Right up front, each candidate's going to get 2 minutes to give an opening statement. I will do this. All the questions will go in order of alpha. So we'll start with Bart, then Mark, then Scott, and then we'll just rotate that Mark and Scott. Y'all know the system, okay? As moderator, I'll ask all the questions. Those of you that would like to ask a question from the audience, if you'll make sure that Jim gets it, or one of the people walking around picking up questions from you, then I will be answering those or questioning those from up here. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes. There will be some that will be given 30 seconds, 1 minute, and I think 1 or 2 will be given 2 minutes to answer. Maybe just take a little bit of time on some of those things. When we're doing the 1 minute, 2 minute, there will be at the 30-second mark, the yellow marker will go up. That means you got 30 seconds left. And at the 15-second or the 10-second mark, you'll get the red, which means shut it down. And then after that, Bob is in charge of the mic back here. I know. Anybody know any politicians that like to talk? Especially politicians. That's right, not a politician. Okay.
You are.
So, and at the conclusion of the hour that we're going to be together, they'll all be given 2 minutes in which to have a closing comment. So with that, let's begin, and we'll start with Bart Castleberry. You have 2 minutes.
Can y'all hear me without the microphone?
No.
No. Use the mic.
My name is Bart Castleberry. I'm running for office of mayor of the city of Conway. I am a lifelong resident of the city of Conway. I married my high school sweetheart, Melissa. We've been married for 37 years. We have 3 sons: Sam, who's working on his PhD, and who is an academic advisor at Syracuse University; Tyler, who is a captain, paramedic firefighter with the city of Mayoral; and Zach, who is a licensed commercial electrician, an inspector for the city of Conway, and owns Castleberry Home Inspection Services. We have 2 beautiful grandchildren, Spencer Lane and Knox. And I am a cum laude graduate of Arkansas Tech University with a degree in emergency administration and management. I was the fire chief in Conway for 20 years. I served 33 years with the department, 20 of those years as chief. We started out, we were a Class 5 ISO rated department. When I left, we were a Class 2 ISO rated department, which in turn translates back to you as a homeowner, as a business owner. It saves you in your insurance. I'm currently the director of permits and inspections for the city of Conway, and we are doing some really good things there. We're streamlining programs. We are making it easier to build in Conway. We've got a program now where you can turn your files into us, PDF, your home development plans into us, and it shoots out to everyone else. Right now, that process takes about 60 to 90 days, 60 on a good day, 90, sometimes longer. We're going to have that down to about a 21-day process. So people who have their money tied up in business will be able to, in banking, will be able to move that process much quicker. This is what I hope to do citywide, is streamline.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Mr. Arthur, 2 minutes.
As I said before, I'm not a politician, so I'm not real good about talking about myself. So my beautiful wife sitting there wrote a little preamble. So I'm going to read that just to get me started. I apologize for not being a politician, excuse me. I am Mark Elsinger. I was raised on a 4th-generation dairy farm here in Conway. My mother and father taught me at a very young age the meaning of honest, hard work, and to be a public servant. That training led me into police work, which I held for 30 years. I was with the Conway Police Department for a little over 30 years. I retired there as a major, however I did serve time as interim chief for a little bit. I have known the city inside and out all my life. Walked the streets at 2 in the morning to make sure all was well. My concern is still for the good citizens of Conway. Has been all my life. As mayor, I will continue to serve and protect in all areas, especially financial. As you all may know, this city is in a lot of financial problems. And somebody's going to have to make some very hard choices in the coming future. And to keep us in the right direction as we move forward with progress that we can afford. That's my slogan, progress we can afford. Thank you, Christine. Anyway, as I said, I served with the Conway Police Department for a little over 30 years, then worked for the mayor's office for 2.5 years, special project manager, overseeing the building of the new police station. I want to do what needs to be done to bring the salaries up, to take care of the financial needs we have, to get away from the debt as much as possible that we have already locked in for long term. I want to rearrange some of my priorities, and hopefully I'll get a couple more minutes from there, a couple more seconds. But anyway, thank you for your vote. I appreciate it, and good evening, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Mark. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Hello, I'm Scott. You hear that okay?
Yes.
That's it. Hold it.
Licking, right?
That's it.
All right. I'm Scott Grummer, and I'm running for mayor for the city of Conway. My family has been here in Conway. My great-grandfather is buried in St. Joseph Cemetery. And I grew up pumping gas for my father at a gas station many years ago. I love the city. I just have so many memories, but been married for almost 21 years now. To a beautiful wife and a family of 2 children. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. They're growing up too fast. A little bit about me. I've done a lot of work in Little Rock, Arkansas. I've done revitalization strategies in Little Rock. If any of you have ever been to downtown Little Rock, you'll find that the Main Street, I was involved in some of the economic and community development initiatives that took place in the South Main Street area in a blighted community. I implemented strategies of innovation and growth for housing. I executed a partnership with the University of Arkansas School of Architecture, their design build program. We actually partnered to design different types of housing products that actually, even now, it's just been 6 years, but within 6 years we've actually seen tremendous growth in that area with businesses coming in and all kinds of great opportunity happening. So myself, you can find more information out about me at scottgrummer.com. Our acronym is climbing. I'm a rock climber by trade on the side, but climbing is what we look for, city services and many things. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to sharing.
Okay, let's begin with the questions. We'll start with Mark. It's a 1-minute response. The question is going to be longer than the minute response.
Bob, can you turn up the sound a little bit? Please, thank you.
It's a 1-minute response. Which of the following terms do you think will most closely describe your approach to governing? Conservative, liberal, or moderate? What actions can you point out to us, past actions that you've had to prove your position that you take? Now, I went to an online service and I got the definitions of conservative, so I'm going to read that in liberal and moderate. Conservative, they believe that personal responsibility, limited government, free markets, individual liberty, traditional American values, strong national defense. Believe the role of government should be to provide people with freedom necessary to pursue their own goals. Conservative policies generally emphasize the empowerment of the individual to solve their problems. Liberal, believe in government action to achieve equal opportunity and equality for all. It is the duty of government to alleviate social ills and to protect civil liberties and individuals and human rights. Believe the role of government should be to guarantee at no cost that no one is in need. Now, let me repeat that. Believe that the role of government should be to guarantee that no one is in need. Liberal policies generally emphasize the need for government to solve problems. And moderate is a blend of both of those. So, Mark, you have 1 minute to respond.
I would say as a whole, I was be conservative. I was always kidding at the police station that I could squeeze a nickel tighter than anybody I know. Also, my dad was that way. I was grew up that way. If you didn't have the money, you didn't get it. You paid for what you got when you needed it. You worked for it, you got it. The government, to me, should take care of the police, the fire, streets, and sanitation as the 4 primary. Take care of basic needs of everybody. The people out here know more about what's going on in the public and be able to help the public to take care of themselves. Government means to get out of their way, facilitate churches, organizations to do their job. And I could go on, but I'm going to go on. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Greber, 1 minute response.
I would probably consider myself a moderate. I've been in the private industry, owned my own business in real estate development, and realize the implications that too much taxing can be placed on businesses and small business and impact you there. But also being in the nonprofit realm as executive director of a nonprofit for 5 years, as well as in the government side, I realize the benefit and the role that we play in order to help all community members, because not everybody has the strengths of others. It's not about government playing the full role, but in creating public-private partnerships, you can actually take a little bit of leverage from our side, and you can create a tremendous amount of change in the private realm. So I look at it as it's a give and take, but we work together in order to achieve a greater success.
Thanks, Scott. And Bart?
I'm going to have to take 2 of those. I'm going to have to call myself a conservative moderate. I am conservative in as far as fiscal spending, as far as what we as a city should do, but I also believe that there's certain amenities that we as a city have to lay and give to our citizens. Yes, we have to have police, fire, sanitation, and streets, most definitely streets, but we also have to be able to do what it takes to bring other folks to Conway. What does it take to make Conway attractive to businesses? What does it take to make Conway attractive to new home buyers, to people moving into Conway? So yes, I'm conservative. I believe in living in your budget and doing what is fiscally responsible. But as a city, we have to put ourselves out there so that people will find us as someplace that they want to live.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, this goes to Scott. Your next 30-second response. Conway current administration seems to operate in an emergency or crisis mode. Most ordinances brought before the City Council are only brought to the Council with a must pass now or have to pass tonight mandate. Ordinances are rarely brought to the Council in time to have state mandated 3 public readings. Most ordinances need an emergency clause when passed. Do you see a problem with this constantly operating in crisis mode? And how would you, as mayor, correct this?
Yes, I have
a 30-second response.
I have a huge problem with that. I truly believe in planning, being a planner with the City of Conway. I appreciate the role that planning has. When I come to be mayor, the first thing that we do will be getting into the community and helping to reach out and set a plan for the long-range plan for the city so that we don't get into a crisis mode, but we know exactly where we want to go, where we need to go, and that we're making the right initiatives and we're doing the right things in order to set ourselves up for success into the future.
Thank you, Scott. Bart, 30 seconds.
The emergency clause should be used just for that, for emergencies. We have a fire truck breakdown, we have a sanitation truck breakdown, something that's going to cause a problem with services. That is a true emergency, and we should probably vote on it and enact the emergency clause at that time. However, for day-to-day operations, I believe in an informed public. I believe that the public should know well in advance what we're going to talk about as a council. I think the council has to be well informed so they can make informed decisions.
Thank you, Bart. Mark, 30 seconds.
Y'all going to find that we're going to agree on a lot of things. But yes, the whole emergency clause is just like Bart said, for emergencies. The reason City Council can't do anything until the last minute is because the mayor's office is not getting until the last minute. Because if the mayor would actually show up for work sometime, then we might have to actually get the job done. So that was my little pig. But anyway, yes, it needs to be more planning, 3 readings, 90% of the stuff that's done in the emergency clause can get planned ahead of time and do the job like they're applied to do, like they're elected to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now the next question is a 2-minute response. We're going to begin with Mr. Castleberry, and it begins with, the City of Conway has steadily increased their cost over the years, more specifically in terms of headcount, salary, and benefits, making dramatic increases in the last 4 years. It has been said that it accounts for almost 80% of the budget. Much of the pension cost is unfunded and needs to be addressed. In an economic downturn, this could cause a dramatic problem for the city and for the citizens to keep the budget balanced. Do you consider this a problem? And if so, how would you correct this?
Actually, the number is 83% of our current budget is for personnel. And 70% of that 83% is police and fire. Now, the city's job is to provide services. Our first job is safety and security of our citizens. And then it's infrastructure. We have to have the employees to maintain safety in Conway, police and fire. And we have to have the folks who pick up the trash. We have to have the folks who fix the streets. 83% is a number that is somewhat a little tough to compete with. I personally like the 65% range, because then you have more money to take care of your operational needs. I do not think that we need to go in and lay people off. I do not, because our job is to provide services. And in order to provide services, we have to have people to do this. As far as the unfunded pension, that is going to be a problem that's going to have to be addressed. The people who are already in the fund are probably grandfathered in. One thing that we're probably going to have to look at as a city is, if we hire you, David, as a new employee, we're probably going to have to offer you a 401k or something like that, so that the city does not 10, 15, 20 years down the road pick up that liability. And it is a tremendous liability, and it's something that will come directly from the budget, directly from our line items. So, and right now we don't have a way to fix that problem. But, going back to what I originally said, service is our business. We have to continue to do that. But we're going to have to look at some ways and somewhat slowing down our growth a little bit. But Conway is a great place, and we don't want to really slow anything down.
Thank you. All right. Mark, 2 minutes.
Yes, we have a large percentage of our budget is salaries and employees and benefits. My first thing would be is to look at all the positions in the city. We have some positions in the city that I don't think we necessarily need. We could cut, that would save. For instance, not that I'm picking on it, we got 3 people running the mayor's office. That's totally ridiculous. 1 mayor is all we need, but that's the way it is now. There's $150,000 right there that could go away. There's a couple other positions that, in my opinion, could be cut or curtailed. So there's some ways of cutting that 80%, 83% down to a manageable thing. The pension, that's a touchy subject. People will promise that. We may have to go through a 401 type thing, but I would like to, there's a possibility that, and believe you me, part of my other plan is to cut some of the taxes. For instance, the A&P, 10 years ago, that was passed a 2% sales tax with 1% going away in 3 years. That never went away, okay? So there's things that we could cut there, basically, which would give the people more money, but there's also a way that we're trying to shift in here, and I'm not advocating, this would be a last case scenario. There's a millage, possible millage increase of like 0.4% that would fund the pensions and that sort of thing. But we got to get the salaries in line, so because the pension is based on the salaries. We have some overpaid people, but we also have some people that ain't making enough and hadn't had a pay raise in 10 years because they're market value based on some survey that some outfit come up with. So there's a whole gambit in that $32 million budget. You can't tell me that I can't get in there and cut a bunch of that fat out of there. And that should take care of some of that problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Scott, 2 minutes.
Climbing to new heights. That's our slogan on our website when you go there. And you'll find that the acronym I use in climbing, the B in the climbing is building fiscal health. That's the first primary thing that I've talked about in my platform, because building a strong city is extremely important. Now, how we do that? Number one, we have some very talented people within the city of Conway, not only that works for the city, but also surrounds the city from a leadership standpoint. The first thing we'll do is pull that together and really look really hard at where we've been and where we are and where we need to go. It's extremely important. As far as any changes within staffing, that's one thing that we'll certainly have to look at. And from a percentage standpoint, you have to determine where the strength is and what we need to do. But we need to hone that in. Planning is the biggest part. So when we come in to the first of the year, again, when we look at building fiscal health, it's going to be looking at exactly where we spend our money. For an example, when you look at the street department has about $30 million that have gone out in bonds for street repair. $20 million of that is actually into the central landing part. One of the conversations that I have with our street engineer is the fact that trying to manage the street repair with the city and maintenance is extremely difficult right now because the budget's very small. But they're losing staff because the pay raises have not happened because of the shift that the city made within the way that the pay scale goes. They're losing talented people, which means they're not going to have skilled labor in order to do the street repair. And if we have to contract that out, it's going to cost you, the taxpayer, more money if we sub it out. We need city people in order to do the city jobs, but we need to look at it and see exactly where the strength is and where the weakness is, and come together, and we need to build for the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, we're going to go from our prepared questions to the questions from the floor that I've had delivered to me. And we'll start with the first one. And on this one, what I'm going to start with is this. I'm going to do this on the fly. This is a 30-second response. And that we'll start with Mr. Elsinger on this one, I believe. And the question is, it's regarding bids and favoritism. And it seems to this person that there is favoritism to certain contractors and bankers and vendors, etc. in Conway, parks and the like. Will your administration require 3 bids on every project?
Absolutely. I believe the law somewhat requires that. And yes, there seems to be some, in some regards, there seems to be, perception is reality, folks, or whatever, some favoritism. There are some things where it's a sole source vendor that this is the only place you can get it, so you've got to go with that. But there could be some more, again, with planning and putting it out there a little bit longer so other people have time to respond to that. There's ways to getting some more involvement and more input from outside vendors and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, 30 seconds.
I've had extensive experience in administering federal grants and state grants, and in that process is a procurement. And it is 3 bids minimum. So there is equal opportunity for everybody to be able to put in a bid, and that should be done no matter what. As far as favoritism, there's a lot of vendors within the city of Conway that actually provides and supports a lot of the activity around Conway, but that doesn't mean that you get any favorite. So in my administration, yes, there will be equal bidding across the board, and there will be no favoritism. Thank you.
Thank you, Bart. 30 seconds.
I can speak from experience. State law mandates that anything over $20,000 has to be bid. In the fire department, we bought fire trucks, we bought rescue vehicles, we bought everything. We always took RFQs, got the qualifications, came back, submitted everything for bid. 3 bids went out, sometimes more, and we didn't always take the lowest bid. We bought what was best for the city of Conway.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Let's do 30 seconds on this as well. What are your feelings? We'll go to Mr. Kermer on this one for 30 seconds. What are your feelings concerning the municipal swimming center? What our current administration seems hell-bent on building? I mean, there was passion in this, right?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to take any of the last administration's platform and bring it into mine. I will say this. I believe the city of Conway needs more activities for its youth and for the population. How we go about that, I think the private industry can bring a lot of different things. I'm a rock climber. I'd love to see a rock climbing gym here, so I may help to spur that. But ultimately, if it's a swimming pool, I think it's great. But we've got to find a fiscal way in which we can do it in a way that we can afford it and not just go after a big pie in the sky.
Thank you.
Well, I got good news for you. It will go to the voters in 2021. Right now, in the city of Conway, we have a number of 5-year loans that are out. That money is dedicated to paying off those 5-year loans, A&P money, parks money, for the next 5 years. So you're not going to have to worry about it for 5 years, and then it goes to a vote of the people. So you will have your chance to have your voice on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
I'm glad you got a passionate one. I'm passionate about this. I've been doing this for 5, 6 years now. Folks, I've been running for this office for 5 years now. Yes, we don't need, it would be nice to have all these facilities. And there's a certain group of people in town that would love to have that. But again, I'm glad it's going to the voters. It needs to go to the voters. Everything that's been started by this administration needs a complete and total overhaul look at. Now, the problem is you've got a city council out there that has bought into all this. So the mayor can only do so much, and it's up to the council. So you need to be talking to council members. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to do a minute response on this one. And let's see, who do we start with? Bart, okay. And both of these are regarding roads and operations around that. And I'm going to read them both. Do you have plans that include repaving Conway Avenue, or College Avenue, and many other streets, as well as restriping many of them? That's one. And then this one, it's about roads. It is currently the city council members are given street dollars to spend in their districts. There have been several times that these funds have been used, let's say, in a neighborhood in which an alderman lives, even though there are many other more pressing needs in other areas. Are you interested in continuing this, or would you be interested in prioritizing the streets and allocating dollars in the most needy area streets? Often it seems this allocation to council members seems like walking around dollars.
1 minute?
1 minute. Do you need more than 1 minute?
Tell me
Do
what's
you need more than 1 minute?
Yes.
Because I'll give everybody else
Okay.
a minute and a half.
My #1 priority, if elected, is streets. We currently get $1.1 million in state turnback annually. That started 3 years ago. That money has been used, has gone towards Central Landing, but it will free up in 2017. So that's $1.1 million we'll have additionally to work on street repair. We have currently about $400,000 budgeted in street repair, so we're talking about $1.5 million. Now, with $28 million worth of street repairs, it doesn't go far. However, we do have a program that the City Council approved where we're having a company come in and map the streets of Conway. They not only map them, it shows which streets need to be repaired based on priority, based on need. The other part of that question is, we have a street engineer. Guy's been to school, got a degree, everything on the wall that shows he knows how to plan streets, how to fix streets. That money and the priorities of fixing the streets in Conway should go to the city engineer. He should plan it. He should plan it for 1 year, 5 years, based on our needs, and it should be his job to fix them.
Thank you. Mark, a minute and a half.
Yes, street would be a definite priority. You all drove here on the street, you all know that the streets are horrible. They have been spending too much time, effort, money in expansion, expansion, expansion. The 20 million out here on the landing is actually up to 28 million. Okay, they borrowed 20 million, but they're up to 28. So, and that's why it's only left 400,000 for repairs. 400,000 is not going to go anywhere for the 28 million that's needed. But you've got to start shifting priorities. That's my thing. We've got to shift the priorities. The direction the city has gone in the last 18 years has gone on long enough. Again, I'm passionate about this because I've been talking about it for 5 years. But anyway, that we got to do more with the streets. We got to prioritize more with the streets, do more repairs. Almost every street in town needs to be refixed or repaved, and not just in neighborhoods or subdivisions that somebody does live, and they're a fact. Whoever wrote that, you're exactly right. That whole ward by ward thing, in my mind, is ridiculous. We've got a man that knows how to do it. We've got companies coming in and telling us which we need. That's where we need to do it. Spend it where the need is. Shift the priorities. Change the priorities. Put it where it's most needed and work from there. Thank you.
Scott, 90 seconds.
90 seconds. The I in climbing, my acronym, again, infrastructure. We need to improve it. As far as the streets are concerned, that $400,000 to $1 million that goes to the street, that's actually supposed to be for maintenance, but the city has been putting it more towards road replacement. That's not maintenance. When you have to replace a road, you're spending over $10 a square foot to replace it versus maintenance may be a few dollars a square foot. We need to use our dollars specifically for what they're meant to be used for. The bond money that's out there for street repair, that's going towards new construction. We have to be very careful as we're building out, because if you build out too fast, too far, then you're not going to be physically strong enough in order to replace and repair your streets when they come into cycle 50 years later. So it's very critical that, number one, we plan for the future, and number two, that we look at how we're doing with the money that we have and that we're maximizing it. Yes, the city streets actually is coming in with the C in my climate acronym with city services modernizing and innovating. They're bringing in a program that's going to help us identify where the main issues are, and we can actually get to those and we can replace those based on the needs, and we can actually plan it out over time so that we can get it replaced in an incremental fashion and allow the street department to do their job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've been going to Mark now. This one is regarding city debt on a specific area, and I'm going to fill in a few places. It says, how do you propose to pay the government for the $6 million owed on the old airport that's due, I believe, in early 2017, when I'm going to try to fill in here. I think those $6 million were going to come from the sale of the old property, which does not have a contract on it right now, and therefore that money probably is not going to be there. How do you propose in a Elsinger administration to come up with $6 million to pay for that?
Glad for that, because I have no idea.
1 minute.
Okay, I have no idea. I mean, right off the top of my head, I have no idea. The only way I know, and that's not that I don't care, but yes, we're going to have to pay it, is that I won't know until I get into the budget and see the actual budget. I haven't been able to, I can access some of the stuff, but yes, it's a, what do you call it, transparent administration, but there's always these funds out here that you don't know about. So I would have to look at the complete budget, the complete general fund, the complete everything, the investments or whatever, to see where we can pull from it, because we're going to have to pull from somewhere, but we're going to have to pay it unless they give us an extension, which I don't know. So yeah, we're in a world of hurt. That was supposed to be sold. There's questions about whether it's sold or not. That's still up in the air. They talked about maybe going to the second bid. That might get their money, but that's something that's going to have to be addressed, and I can't tell you this is exactly how it's going to be done. It'll have to be looked at.
Okay, thank you. Scott, 1 minute.
So, $6 million. First of all, I believe it's 2018 and not 17.
Is it?
Right, if I'm not mistaken. But as far as how we pay for that, well, number one, I want to make this very clear, and I don't know if this has been clear to most everybody. That project did not come through the city planning department with the city of Conway. That was actually implemented through the chamber and partnership with the city, but ultimately the design for that came from a private developer that did not live in the city and did not live in the state. I would like to see the city planning department play a role in planning that area out, and how we pay for it. We can look at multiple ways, but go to fundrise.com. That's a website in which you can actually get developers and people that have money in the city that want to develop and crowdsource and let them invest in it, and then we plan it out and we can actually let it build out for the future in the way that City of Conway wants it to be done.
Thank you. Mark, 1 minute.
Actually, it's $3 million of that loan was paid with the last council meeting, I understand. So it was done with a 5-year loan, so the full amount will not be due in 2018. I personally believe that Dillard's is going to come to Conway. I think that the land's going to sell and we're going to pay it off. I do. Brad Lacey said it was coming. And even if it doesn't, I know the city's invested a lot in infrastructure in that area, but it will make the land worth more money. So if we have to drop back and punt, it'll be worth more than the original $5.75 million. I personally see it as a win either way.
Thank you. Okay, we go to Scott. And the question is, regarding taxes, what is your stance on the current AP tax in our county? And then the next question came from another source is, can we eliminate the tourist tax, which I think is considered the AP tax? You got 1 minute.
Well, I haven't really actually, I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't looked into that. I'd like to hear from everybody within the county and the city as to what you'd like to do with it. Elimination of a tax, again, you have to look at where the money's going. I think that there's a lot of taxes that are going in the wrong place. I've dealt in real estate and home ownership, and I realize that the real estate tax, some of that goes to fund the schools, which is great, but there's also venues in which that's been there and could be possibly. I mean, you don't want to look at. You got to be careful where the taxes are going and what it spends for. But I don't have a good answer for that.
Thank you. Mark?
Well, the A&P tax does generate revenue for the city of Conway. They take that money and they bring in different events. I know that the baseball programs that come to Conway, we're one of the leading venues for baseball in the state of Arkansas because of our facilities. But those people who come to Conway spend their dollars here. That's out-of-town money helping us fund the things we're wanting to do in Conway. So the A&P tax does have benefits that I personally believe have been good for us as a city.
And Mark?
As I said before, when that was passed by the public 10 years ago, there was a 2% to build the baseball fields and the softball fields. And then they were going to cut, after 3 years, they were going to cut it back to 1 and use that next money coming in for maintenance of those operations and the rest of city parks. That's what the thing was passed on the ballot. That's what the people voted for. 3 years later, the city council come along and said, it's no more new tax, you've been paying it all along, so it can't hurt, so we'll just keep it going. I've been to time and time and time to the city council meeting, and they say, well, we got this money coming in from the A&P, the city gets 1.1 million, we got to do something with it. I haven't found the law that says you have to spend every money that comes in. So if they've got money that they have to find, that's what this the aquatic center, the tennis center, all that is because they know they got this money coming in, so they got to spend it in their mind. So we need to readdress the priorities, as we said. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. This goes to Mark. From an operations standpoint, or actually from the total point, what problem should Conway be doing the most to solve within your administration? For 1 minute.
I can do it 3 quick words. Streets, streets, and streets. That is the one thing that we need to concentrate on more than anything. Conway is at a pinnacle. We are a city that other cities measure their success against. We're at this point. Where we are lacking is we've got to fill in. We've got to fill in our infrastructure and our streets. If we can do that, we're going to continue to be the city that businesses want to move to, that people want to move to, and let's face it, I drive on the streets. I was driving down the street the other day and I hit a bump so hard my radio went off. So I do understand, but streets are going to be my #1 priority. I think that should be our priority as a city.
Thank you. Mark?
I'll go with streets, and then everything else. But well, basically, streets, drainage. We haven't touched the drainage issue in 18 years, folks, or 20. Under the Kinley administration was the last time this was done. We got trees 5-6 inches growing up in the middle of Tucker Creek and all that. Haven't touched it. That needs to be done. We've got culverts that are falling in, and we have no way of finding out where they're at, much less where the fall in is, much less how to fix it. Those are things. Streets, drainage, and then go from there. We have a lot of problems that haven't been addressed in a long time, and they need to be addressed. Again, it's all about shifting the priorities. City looks good, city looks great. The present administration is great on appearance. Well, all I've heard the term whitewash tomb. Looks good on the outside, stinks on the inside. That's the city of Conway. We got a great city, we got a fantastic city, but we need to fix our guts, our insides. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Scott, 1 minute.
Streets, of course. As far as the first thing in priority is building fiscal health. That's, again, in my climate acronym, getting a strong base and a foundation that we move on to into the future. This is not a small town anymore. I think we passed the role of being a small town when we hit 50,000. We're moving into the city and we're going to have to start making decisions as a larger city. So that means, how do we manage the money that's coming in? How do we spread it efficiently among our services that we're providing, including streets, that we're taking care of that? And then how do we plan for the future to make sure that the things that we're planning out and we're developing in a way that's going to create a very strong city and not a weak one by spreading out too far. So there's a lot of work to be done once we get the new year.
Thank you. Okay, here's another operations or budgeting and operations question that we begin with Mark. Will Conway have a balanced budget when you, the new mayor, take office? If not, what will you propose to get our city on sound fiscal footing? In 1 minute.
I believe by state law we have to have a balanced budget, excuse me. I know the state does, and I'm pretty sure we have to. And we do have a balanced budget. They never spend over the budget. The problem is they get these loans. It's 5-year notes, it's 20-year bond issues. We've got to cut that back. Like Bart said, we don't vote on the aquatic center or another bond until 2020 or 2021 because we have already maxed out on how many 5-year notes we got. So we're going to have to pay some of those off. We're maxing out our credit card, folks. We need to start paying it off. And that's all about priorities. And yes, we will be we will be balanced. And we'll actually try to, in my administration, we'll cut back on some of our expenses to try to pay off some of these.
Thank you. Scott, 1 minute.
I agree with Mark. Balanced budget, of course, that's something that's priority. The spending that we've had, the bond issues that are going out, we're really going to have to look at the future and figure out how we can stabilize the spending that's been done and where we go. Not to say that we're not going to have more spending that's going to be needed, but ultimately when we look at the growth for the city, there's a balance between how much we spend and how much we can pull in towards the future. So again, building fiscal health is something that needs to be done, but I'll tell you right now, I don't have all the answers. The answers are going to come from those that are in our financial, the CFO, as well as those that are in the community that can give us the answers to make the right decisions to move forward. It doesn't happen here. It happens here.
Thank you. Art?
A balanced budget, yeah, that's a given. As a leader of the city, you have to have a balanced budget. You have to stay within that budget. However, I'm a firm believer that our job is to provide services. I don't necessarily believe it is our job to have a tremendous savings account. Yes, we have to have enough money for a rainy day. Should something go wrong, we've got to be able to do that. However, we do need to provide services, and that costs money. Now, there are some good things coming down the pike. Sam's Wholesale is coming. That's going to be great. Bed Bath & Beyond. There's no telling how much money I'll spend at Academy Sports. So, yes, a balanced budget, that's a given. That's just what you have to do, is what we strive for. But our job is to provide services as well.
Thank you. Now we go to Mark.
I lost you.
Okay, me too. Sorry about that. It's more of a, it gets back to the pension, and it is, the person writes, it's my understanding that the mayor attempted to raise the salary of a city employee the last month of this person's employment. The mayor admitted it was proposed so that the employee's retirement would increase over their lifetime. Would you attempt this in your administration?
I'm not.
Here's what I understand. This is what I understand. I'm not sure it wasn't written in here. I understand that the final monthly compensation of an employee in the city is entitled to, if they've qualified for that, is entitled to 50% of their final income. So if you give them $1,000 a month raise, you in effect raise their retirement income by $500. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
And as far as doing something like that, that's, I don't know that he did that. I don't know anything about that, but that's the present administration. No, I would not do that. That's ridiculous. But I mean, this present administration has pulled some sneaky ones, folks. He's done a good job overall, but he's pulled some sneaky ones, and that's just a prime example of one. So, to answer your question, basically, no, I would not do that. I think that was wrong. If it was done, I think that was wrong. Person needs to work for that retirement. Believe you me, the retirement, when I started with the police department back in 1977, my annual paycheck was $7,500, okay? That retirement was what I was looking at. That compensates for that low pay for 20 or 30 years or whatever. So the retirement is important to folks. So we need to salvage that if at all possible, but that's ridiculous. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
No.
That's the response that some people will remove.
I can't comment on the specific instance because I don't know anything about it. I would not be in favor of raising someone's salary last month just so that they can have a raise. But I'm also smart enough to know that I'm not going to discuss personnel issues out loud either. So, but my answer would be no.
Thank you. Okay. That pretty much concludes the comments and questions from the floor. So we'll have 3 or 4 more questions, and then we'll have closing comments. For 1 minute response, and let's see, we go to Bart. In the last 8 years, Conway has had many capital projects, particularly roads and parks, while neglecting upkeep of their park and road infrastructure. And some of the things I've heard stated by the Parks and Recreation folks, they're literally talking about millions of dollars of work that has to be done on parks. Those capital dollars were spent in it, and there's been very little maintenance to upkeep the parks. And so maintenance on those as well as roads has been left, and it's going to cost more and more. Go back to the $2 versus the $10 per foot. How would you want to address this situation? I know you said that roads is your, but is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
The upside is the parks repairs and maintenance can go through the A&P tax, which I know is not real popular, but however, that keeps it from going into the general fund. As far as our streets, we're going to have to continue on our state turnback, the 1.1 million, but we're also going to have to refocus some of our other needs within the city and redirect those funds into the street department. Now, however, one thing is, the street department is not part of the general fund. The street fund is its own separate fund, and all of its money comes from the state turnback. So there's just a set amount of dollars within that we can actually use on our streets within the city. I don't have all the answers to that, but I do know that one thing we possibly, no, I'm not going to throw that out there. Anyway, it is state turnback money. It is a set amount, and we can use A&P money to repair our parks.
1 minute.
Bart is exactly right. The majority of the street department, it is a separate fund, comes from the state turnback. There are some additional funds that go in there, impact fees and that sort of thing, that can be negotiated as far as up to the city council to decide where that's spent. So it just depends on how much you're building new streets. The problem is we're building new streets. We're building them more and more. We're not taking care of the streets that we have. I mean, it's obvious to everybody. The A&P tax, the reason we're building all these big facilities is because we've got all this money coming in from the A&P tax. Now, some of that is set by state law on what you can and can't spend with A&P tax, but some of it is negotiable within the city council. Again, folks, the city council is the one that you really need to be talking to. The mayor, you can have a say-so, but it's the council that votes it. Thank you.
Scott, 1 minute.
The parks play a vital role in the health of our community. So I'm thankful for our parks. It gives us the public space in which we can enjoy and we can actually just be around one another and communicate. Now, how we pay for it, again, when you go back to how you build the city out, cities sprawl across the country. Cities have seen weaknesses within their budgets because they've built out way too far, handed streets, and then after 30, 40 years and the streets need repairing, you don't have the money because you didn't plan accordingly. If you want to pay for it, plan for it. Don't just build it, but understand that you have to plan for the maintenance and the long-term holding of that property and how you're going to handle it. There's a way. We just have to make sure that we plan accordingly. So for me, it'll be strong planning on the front end, and any initiative that is brought to the city, we'll look at it in every aspect that we need to when it comes to both the cost of it as well as the long-term maintenance and holding.
Thank you. Mark, we're going to begin with you with 1 minute response. Question is, Conway has lost much of its manufacturing job base over the years, such as Amtran, Courier, Nucor, they're all gone.
Yes.
Verco has reduced its employment, along with many of the smaller companies that service all of these organizations have now disappeared for their outsourcing of their services. So while focusing right now heavily on attracting lower paying retail jobs, I don't know if there's a swap out there, but do you consider this a problem? And if so, how will your administration correct this?
That's been a pet peeve of mine for 5 years now. But anyway, manufacturing jobs, we need to stress more on manufacturing jobs. We're getting some good high-tech jobs, technology jobs, which that's great, that's fantastic. We could use them. But we need the manufacturing jobs. You've got the Economic Development Corporation, you've got Chamber of Commerce, you've got the mayor's office, all should be out here knocking on doors, doing whatever we can to get manufacturing jobs in. I was told that according to the statistics, for every one manufacturing job, you've got 4 additional support jobs that go with that. So that's 5 for 1, basically. The retail is good, but that's only one-on-one. So we need to stress, and my administration, which includes all the administration, would stress trying to get more manufacturing jobs. It's a disgrace that we lost the ones we have. It would be nice to get something back because it covers a whole lot of people. And goes from there.
Thank you, Mark. Scott, 1 minute.
The G in my climate analogy, green, sustainable development. I think, what does green have to do with manufacturing? Well, actually, if you read through the fine lines, Walmart, they have a $250 billion initiative in order to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. The United States is actually becoming cost competitive when it comes to manufacturing. And those jobs are going to start coming back here because Walmart is leading the charge as well as other companies. Where are we positioned to take advantage of that? We can. Do we have high-tech jobs coming to Conway? Well, we've got tech companies, but most of it is customer service jobs. It's not a lot of high-tech jobs. So we have opportunity for manufacturing all kinds, but we need to take care of the resources. We have interstate, rail, and river right at our hand. And we've got Fort Smith to the west and Little Rock to the south that are working on their ports. And what are we doing? We had opportunity for intermodal authority here, and it was shot down by Faulkner County. I think that needs to be looked at. I personally believe that regardless of it, we've got to look at the opportunities that we have for shipping to bring manufacturing back into Conway.
Thanks, Scott. Mark?
There are over 25,000 cities and towns in the United States that are all vying for the small number of manufacturing jobs that are available at this time. Where does that leave us? Well, I believe in expansion and retention of our current facilities that we have here. 80% of all new jobs within a city, within a locality, are from your existing your existing manufacturers here. I've got it. I've lost my train of thought. I got started on manufacturing and the number of jobs, expansion and retention. If we can expand and retain the current facilities we have, 80% we can, I'm out.
The clock does not stop. Okay.
It was a great one.
Scott, we're going to go to you. I think. 1 minute on this one. And in regards to debt, it's 1 minute response. The city of Conway has steadily increased their debt load by bonding out or borrowing against many of its revenue streams. Do you consider this a problem? And if so, how would you correct this?
I believe it's a huge problem. Cities leverage is good, and leverage is important because we can take $1 and leverage to get 10. Great, but if you leverage too much, then you over leverage yourself. I'll give you one example of how I would take care of this. One of our departments has actually looked at their capital expenditures. In the past, they would buy all of their capital all at once, trucks and everything. It'd be a huge load, and we'd have to finance that through bonds. When I was an asset manager, one thing that we had was a capital budget in which we actually capitalized that over a period of time, and we would pay for our capital expenditures over a period of time, not all at once. You spread it out, you plan for it, and you make the right decisions when it comes to the time so that you're not over leveraging yourself, and you can actually incrementally keep yourself strong as you move forward as a city, and you don't get into a crux of a problem whenever you have failing equipment. Actually, that equipment you can be rotating out, you can manage it.
Thank you, Scott. Art?
Would you repeat the question?
Okay, the question is...
We were talking.
I'm sorry. It's eating your time. No, I'm kidding. The city of Conway has steadily increased their debt load by bonding out or borrowing against many of their revenue streams. Do you consider this a problem? And if so, how would your administration correct this?
It is something that's going to have to be addressed. We have probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $16.5 million in 5-year loans that are going to come due within someone's administration. So we're going to have to address that. The way to avoid that in the future is to plan. Before we jump into something, we actually need to figure out what it's going to cost. What is it going to cost us to build it? What's it going to cost us 1 year from now? What's it going to cost us to staff it? What's it going to cost us to maintain it? It all goes back to planning. It goes back to strategic planning. What we as a city can do to make sure that we don't get into this cycle of 5-year loans.
Thank you, Mark. Mark?
Both of them are actually right. We are, again, my credit card's maxed out. We can't borrow anymore because by state law, we've maxed out everything that we can do on the 5-year notes. So that definitely is a problem. To answer your basic question, yes, it is a problem. Yes, it needs to be addressed. The only way you address that, the problem is they have locked in certain pieces of sales tax to pay for that, more or less like your collateral towards it. And we need to, so therefore we can't do any expansion, we can't do any repairs, we can't take care of anything because all of our money is locked up. We don't have any wiggle room. We're going to have to free that up. The only way to free that up is is to cut back, just like you would in your household, just like you and I have to do. You cut back on your expenses to pay off the note, and then you have more free money to go from there.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And that finishes the questions. So now it's your time. And so let's move to closing statements. We'll start with Scott. And you have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and then we'll proceed to Art and then Mark.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Tea Party for letting us come out and speak tonight. Really appreciate the time. This is a rare opportunity where we can actually stand up, the three of us, and you can see the differences that we have. The reason why I stepped into this race is because I want to help Conway become a city-strong and sustainable plan for the future. And the only way we can get there is working through all these initiatives that we talked about today. But you've got to realize that the future of this city, it's really right now. We've had a mayor for 18 years, and we're in a transition. We don't need to go out and go gung-ho. We need to figure out where our base is, and we need to set a path forward for the future. When I'm mayor of the city of Conway, my first plan will be to come in and to create a strong foundation. A house built on a rock will stand, but on sand it won't. So I promise you this, when we come together, we'll seek neighborhood coalitions, we'll seek more speaking to the people and hearing from you what the needs are for this city, and your voice will be heard, and it's not going to be anything well, it's not going to be the past, it's going to be the future, and the future is this city. So I want to thank you very much for coming out today. Again, it's scottgrummer.com. You'll go on there, you'll find my platform, which is the climbing acronym City Services, Innovate, Labor, and Labor, as well as Infrastructure, Mobility and Transit, which is extremely important for the city. We have no bus system. Building Fiscal Health, Invest in Human Capital, that's the people and the workers of this city, and making them strong to move forward in the future. Neighborhood development, bringing our neighborhoods together as a coalition so that your voice can be heard in green, sustainable development so that we can move forward into the future of what the city will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Art?
I guess to sum it all up tonight, I know I faltered there a little bit. My mind was working a lot quicker than it normally does. Why would you vote for Bart Castleberry for mayor? One, I think one of the most important facts is I have experience. I've spent 35 years building relationships with people in this community, with the stakeholders within this community. I took over a department that had a budget of $1.1 million and had 34 people. When I left, we had a budget of $8.3 million, 109 people, and we were a Class 2 rated department. Many of those decisions that were made affect you on a daily basis. You may not know it, you may be asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I have the experience, I have made the tough decisions. I was the Emergency Services Director for Hurricane Katrina, for the Depco fire. I've worked with FEMA, I've worked with the Conway School District, CDC, the Chamber of Commerce. I have good relationships, and I know what everyone's job is. I'm a problem solver. I don't step out there and try to make something harder than it actually is. I use common sense. In approaching problems, I use common sense to come up with answers. But I also include other people. But you know, someone still has to make the final decision. I have done those things, and I will continue to do that. Vision. We have to look at all of the assets that we have regionally and locally, and we have to pool those, and we have to figure out exactly where we want to go. What is the vision of Conway and where we are headed? And finally, I'm just, without going into great detail, I want you to know that I do have priorities. My number one priority, and I've said it time and time again, is streets and infrastructure. We're doing pretty well. Conway's a great community. We're a community that everyone else wants to be. I love what we're doing in Conway. Like I said, we're at a pinnacle, we're at the top, we just need to fill in some gaps underneath. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you, Melissa, for hanging out with me all these years. Thank you to the Tea Party.
Thank you. Thank you, Bart. Now, Mark.
Again, I want to thank you all for being here. I know you took time out of your schedule, especially in the evenings. That's my time, whatever. So I appreciate y'all coming. Thanks to Tea Party for sponsoring this. They're one of the few that do that. I'm glad they're saying what they're saying. You ever heard the phrase, imitation is the greatest form of flattery? They're saying the same thing I've been saying for 5 years now, folks. So obviously I had something going on. It's just they didn't listen to me 4 years ago, but hopefully they will this time. I would love to be your mayor. Spent 33 years with the city of Conway. A little over 30 of that with the Conway Police Department. Worked all the way up through the ranks, all the way to interim chief for a spell. Dealt with people day in and day out. Sometimes not the best of people, and sometimes the best of people. I've been with good and bad. I can deal with all of them. My consensus is get everybody together. We have a problem. Let's get it together. Let's discuss it. Even if we don't do what everybody wants to do, if they understand why you're doing what you're doing, they can accept it and rock on. We have great departments. We have great city employees. We have great department heads. All you got to do is tell them what direction you want to go in, and they'll go. And our job is to find the money to do it. And I think I can do that. I know I can do that. So I appreciate y'all's support. I appreciate y'all's interest. I appreciate every one of y'all. Truly do. I've served you for 33 years. I want to continue to serve you. Back on that back table is some literature. I've got a web page, marklsingerformayor.com. I got some banners there that go on the back glass of the thing. Got a notebook there. I don't have my signs. The yard signs will pick them up tomorrow. I'm sorry I put them. But you got name, address, and phone number, and I'll bring you your signs. So thank you very much. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and God bless every one of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that concludes tonight's activities. I don't know if David, you want to say anything? I do know that we're going to have refreshments and opportunity for the candidates to mix and meet all of you here in the room. And with that, I'll back away and give it up to David.
Yes.
Thank you, David.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out, and thank you, candidates, for taking on being willing to take on the responsibility. Folks, that's a tremendous job these guys are asking for. I mean, you know, one of them wants a job, and I don't know, they're asking for it, but one of them's going to be a good mayor. Thanks for coming to see us. I want to remind you all that Farmer County Tea Party meets every Thursday at Larry's Pizza on Markham Street. We always have a good program. Had an excellent program today. Next Thursday at noon, we'll have Curtis Coleman, who was a former candidate for governor a couple of years ago. Some of you may remember him. We meet around 11:30, break up at 1 o'clock. We'd like to have you there. If you're not a member of the Tea Party, come and visit us there. And, oh, by the way, Morris is reminding me we do have membership application or forms. You don't even have to apply for membership. We have a form back on the back table. Lifetime membership, $15. The price of a meal, a cheap meal. Thank you very much for coming. Enjoy some refreshments with us as long as you want to stay around. These guys will probably be glad to try to answer and do it.